You think becoming a medieval merchant means easy money, better clothes, better food, a warm shop, a growing pile of silver. It doesn't. At the bottom of a medieval merchant guild, you are hauling crates, sleeping above rat-filled storerooms, and getting shouted at for mistakes that aren't even yours. At the top, you may be one of the richest men in the city, but now one failed shipment, one riot, one tax decree, or one enemy with influence can destroy everything. Because a merchant guild was never just about trade. It was a machine that turned boys into businessmen, businessmen into power brokers, and power brokers into targets. This is what your life would be like at every level of a medieval merchant guild. At level 1, you are barely a person in the system. You are the shop boy. You do not arrive with status. You arrive with hands. Small hands, fast hands, tired hands. You sweep the floor before sunrise. You stack wool bales until your shoulders burn. You carry sacks of grain, roll casks into storage, fetch water, trim lamp wicks, chase off rats, and run messages through streets full of mud, dung, and thieves. You sleep near the goods because goods matter more than you do. The storeroom smells like damp wood, old rope, moldy grain, and spices that are worth more than your entire future. At night you hear scratching in the walls. By morning you are awake before everyone else because market life starts early and mercy starts never. You are invisible, and that is your first education. You see which customers pay honestly and which ones lie about weight. You see sailors trying to unload damaged cargo at full price. You see guards inventing fees. You see your master smile at men he clearly despises because profit matters more than pride. This is when you learn the first truth of trade. The man smiling at the table is not always winning. The man shouting is not always angry. And the listed price means almost nothing. At level 2, you stop being a random boy and become an apprentice. Now you are attached to a master merchant by contract. Your years belong to him. He feeds you, houses you, trains you, and controls your future. You cannot simply quit because you are tired. You cannot open your own stall because you learned how to count. The guild does not work like that. Nothing moves until the men above you allow it. This is when your real training begins. You learn weights and measures. You learn currencies from different towns. You learn why good Flemish cloth sells higher than rough local cloth. You learn why pepper can be guarded like treasure. You learn why salt matters more than silver in the wrong winter. You begin working with ledgers. You memorize symbols marked on crates. You copy names, numbers, fees, debts, and deliveries until your wrist aches. You learn who buys on time, who pays late, who never pays unless cornered, and which noble household looks wealthy but is quietly sinking. You are still shouted at, still blamed, still given the worst work, but now every insult contains information. And in a merchant guild, information is worth more than strength. At level 3, you become useful beyond the shop. You are now a journeyman trader. For the first time, your master trusts you outside the walls of the business. Not because you are important yet, but because you are competent enough to risk. You travel with wagons, caravans, barges, and coastal ships. You sleep in inns filled with fleas, in warehouses full of mildew, and in carts that punish every bone in your body. From the outside, trade sounds exciting. From the inside, it feels like waiting for disaster. Roads become rivers of mud in bad weather. Forest paths become ambush points. Bridges become toll traps. Border officials become thieves with paperwork. Every town wants your money, and many want your goods too. A broken axle can delay you for days. A spoiled barrel can wreck a deal. A few armed men on the road can erase months of labor in minutes. This is where you begin to understand the wider machine. Some towns make cloth, some trade furs, some move timber, wax, iron, fish, grain, wine, or leather. Every place has something to sell. Every place thinks it is clever. Every place assumes you are trying to cheat it. And sometimes you are. You learn to judge quality by touch. You learn to feel whether wool is dry or packed damp to hide defects. You learn to spot warped barrels, dishonest weights, and fake urgency. You learn that timing matters almost as much as price. Deliver too late, and fine goods become dead inventory. At this level, a successful trip makes older merchants respect you. A failed trip makes them remember you. At level 4, you stop carrying goods and start carrying trust. You are now a factor. That means you act in another man's name. You negotiate deals. You inspect stock. You handle correspondence. You represent your master in another market. You may oversee a warehouse branch or manage trade in a different town. When others see your seal, they are meant to believe they are dealing with the house behind you. That sounds powerful. It is mostly terrifying, because now you are not just moving goods, you are moving promises. Goods shipped now, payment later. Credit extended now, profit hoped for later. Partnership now, settlement later. Friendship now, betrayal later. You start to realize how much of medieval trade runs on paper, memory, reputation, and nerve. Coin matters, yes, but coin alone does not keep commerce alive. Trust does, or the performance of trust. Entire fortunes move because one merchant believes another will still exist 6 months from now. You wear better clothing now. You speak more carefully now. You eat better meat now. But your mistakes are more expensive than ever. If you misjudge a partner, your master loses money. If you trust a debtor too long, your master loses money. If you offend the wrong official, your master loses access. And if your rise comes too fast, other men begin watching. Not because they admire talent, because talent becomes competition. At level 5, you finally become what most people imagine when they hear the word merchant. You are a master merchant. Your own sign hangs outside your shop. Your own apprentices serve under you. You can vote in guild matters. You pay dues. You attend meetings. You sponsor meals, support religious events, and maintain your standing because reputation is now one of your most valuable assets. From the street, your life looks successful. You own inventory. You control contracts. You may own storage space, wagons, dock access, maybe even shares in ships. You may marry better. You may buy property. You may finally wear the visible rewards of success. But now every loss is yours. If grain spoils, you pay. If a customer vanishes, you pay. If war blocks a route, you pay. If plague empties the market, you pay. If rulers debase the coinage, somehow you still pay. This is the stage where success becomes less about growth and more about survival. Expand too slowly, and rivals overtake you. Expand too quickly, and one shock destroys everything. You begin living in several worlds at once. The world of goods, the world of debt, the world of social status, the world of favors, the world of grudges. Because the guild hall is not full of friends. It is full of men whose smiles depend on whether your success threatens their profits. At level 6, business stops being just business. You become a guild officer, maybe a warden, maybe a treasurer, maybe an alderman. The title matters less than what it means. You now help govern the trade itself. You inspect weights and measures. You investigate fraud. You settle disputes. You decide who qualifies to enter the guild. You help determine whether a widow may continue her husband's business. You judge when a fine should punish, warn, or quietly destroy. This is where power becomes uncomfortable. People outside the guild think control feels like freedom. It doesn't. It feels like pressure from every direction at once. Masters want lower dues. The city wants more taxes. The bishop wants donations. Craft guilds want access. Foreign traders want exceptions. Local traders want protection. Everyone praises order until order costs them money. You sit in rooms where decisions about dock fees can change a season, where restrictions on grain can affect bread prices, where one policy can enrich your allies and slowly choke your rivals. And now your nights are worse than ever, because your signature can ruin a household. Your ruling can favor one faction over another, and every rule that protects the guild is also a rule that keeps someone else out. This is when you fully understand something dark about the system. The guild protects trade by controlling who is allowed to live through it. At level 7, a few merchants rise beyond the guild and begin to overshadow it. You become a merchant prince. At this point, you are not merely participating in the system, you are shaping it. You finance cargoes too large for ordinary masters. You lend to nobles. You fund warehouses, ships, walls, maybe even military ventures. Smaller merchants depend on your credit. Officials depend on your loans. Entire routes may function because you are willing to absorb the risk. Your home no longer looks like a successful shopkeeper's house. It looks like power, imported glass, carved chests, fine cloth, servants, painted interiors, account books thick enough to outlive families. And yet, this is the least secure stage of all, because now your enemies are bigger. Not thieves, not petty rivals, rulers. A king who needs money can crush you with one decree. A city can turn on wealthy merchants in a riot. A rival can whisper accusations of greed, monopoly, or usury. A failed fleet can erase fortunes. A shift in politics can make yesterday's indispensable financier into tomorrow's public villain. At this height, wealth does not feel relaxing. It feels exposed. The higher you rise, the more people think your money should solve their problems, and when it doesn't, they begin wondering why you should keep it. Then comes the final level. If you survive long enough, you become the old man in the guild hall. You have seen boys arrive barefoot and merchants leave ruined. You have seen routes open and collapse. You have seen officials preach morality while borrowing coin in secret. You have seen families rise in one generation and disappear in the next. And now you understand what the guild really was. Not just a ladder, a fortress. Yes, it was a monopoly. Yes, it kept outsiders out. Yes, it protected insiders and squeezed everyone else. But it also created trust where chaos would otherwise rule. It created standards in a world full of fraud. It trained children into professionals. It gave merchants enough collective power to survive against thieves, bad rulers, unstable currency, and unpredictable markets. It strangled and stabilized trade at the same time. That was the bargain. Security in exchange for freedom, status in exchange for obedience, opportunity in exchange for years of control, wealth in exchange for constant risk. From the street, people see a medieval merchant and think, comfortable. They do not see the child sleeping above the inventory, the apprentice swallowing humiliation, the traveler counting tolls and armed men, the factor gambling on promises, the master waking up in fear over missing cargo, the officer being crushed by competing interests, the merchant prince smiling while everyone waits for him to fall. They see the velvet sleeve, they do not see the grip around the arm inside it. Because that is what your life would really be like at every level of a medieval merchant guild. Not a clean rise from poor to rich. Not a simple story about buying low and selling high. It would be a life shaped by caution, debt, reputation, fear, and ambition. A life where every level gives you more status, but also more ways to lose everything. A life where money does not remove danger, it simply changes its shape. And by the time you reach the top, you would finally understand the truth hidden beneath the ledgers, scales, and polished shop counters. The guild was never just selling goods. It was selling protection from a world that could ruin you overnight. And for that, people were willing to give it their labor, their loyalty, their youth, and sometimes their entire lives.